you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality. And the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another. Which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week. To help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host for the day, Erica Middlemiss. I am just another reflection and extension of you who will be here filling in for our beloved host, Brandon Beecham, leading the way to ensure your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, welcome back. Thank you for joining me on this terrific Tuesday. I'm super happy to be here yet again, filling in for Brandon. He's so busy, you guys. He's really working so hard, getting optimistic all together. There's so much to do. So I'm happy to come in and give him a breather for the day. It's always fun. Before I get into what we're going to talk about today, I'd like to remind everyone of an event that's going on this weekend in LA. So if you're in the LA area, it is Saturday, June 22nd. It is called the Mass Meditation Initiative in Los Angeles State Historic Park. It is put on by disclosurefest.org, and that's the website if you want to go check it out. But it's a mindful yoga, music, healing, and arts vegan festival. And there's amazing speakers and musicians. Nako is there, Desert Dwellers, Parangi, Freedom Tribe, and some of my favorite speakers like Michael Tellinger and Billy Carson, Jason Quitt, Laura Eisenhower, Nassim Harriman. So this is a free event, or if you so choose to make a donation, it's a donation-based event. So come on out. It's a full day event from 10 in the morning till 10 at night. And if you happen to see me, say hi. It'd be fun to meet you all. Regardless, come on out if you're in the area. It's definitely a really amazing, epic event. So also, before I get into what we're going to talk about today, which I thought today, I didn't really know. Again, I had one of those days I wasn't sure what to talk about. And so I sat and asked my guides again. And the word I got was forgiveness. So today we're going to talk a little bit about forgiveness. But before we get into that, first, a review, because we love these so much. And you all know how much it fuels Brandon's fire to continue this labor of love 5 days a week. So today we are fully appreciating and loving Zen Lawyer for writing this 5-star review called The Essence of Inner Freedom. I saw a recommendation for this podcast on a Reddit forum, and I am so grateful that I was curious enough to check it out. It has been instrumental in what feels like me finally shaking off the weighty dust that is depression. I've struggled with depression for over 10 years. I've wanted to find a cure for that long, but only recently gained the clarity that I need to shift the way I think in order to cure myself. Brandon's discerning insight and infectious positive attitude have been a light that's guided me towards implementing my own positive outlook. I think this quote perfectly sums up the outlook I feel he offers. I don't mind what happens. That's the essence of inner freedom. Listening to this podcast has been an absolutely transformational experience for me. Thank you so much, Brandon, for continuing this labor of love. I love you. And we love you, Zen Lawyer. Thank you so much for that beautiful review. I'm so glad to hear that this has been helping with your depression. That is huge, so huge. And I'm glad that you have found that power within yourself to heal yourself. So kudos to you, Zen Lawyer. And what's interesting, I was reading some research on forgiveness today, and what I happened to find is that research has shown that forgiveness is linked to mental health outcomes, such as reduced anxiety, depression, and major psychiatric disorders, as well as with fewer health symptoms and lower mortality rates. That's a pretty big statement. So that then also means that forgiveness is essential to our health and our well-being. Because when we are holding on to or harboring any resentment or grief or anything about something that has happened to us, and we are focusing that on another person, and we can't forgive them for what they've done to us, the only person at the end of the day that we are harming is us. By having these feelings about that person who harmed you, you are the only one who carries that weight. You're doing absolutely nothing to that person, even though you think that if you were to let it go, then they would win. But there is no winning and losing here, except for you're the only one that really loses, because you're the one carrying around this negative energy that is harming you mentally and physically. I had this client a couple weeks ago, and she was the victim of pretty severe childhood sexual abuse. And at this point in her life, she's in her mid-60s, I think. At this point in her life, she has been able to forgive her abuser. It took her a long time, but the thought process that she went through, she realized that man, as a little boy, someone did that to him, and he grew up and became that, because that's the same old story, isn't it? Isn't this what happens with abusers? You get abused, and a lot of times that person becomes an abuser. So you can look at that and see that man as this little child who has been hurt. And now you can look at that in a completely different scenario. And forgiveness is different than justice here, right? So you're not saying, oh, it's okay what you did to me. No, it's not okay. But I have the understanding and the compassion and the empathy to know that you didn't know any better. Just like Jesus said, right? Forgive them, for they do not know what they do. You really never know what someone else has been through in their life that has caused them to behave in the ways that they do now. So we can take a step back and have a perspective of everyone has had a tough life. Everyone has been hurt, and there are reasons why people behave the way they do. We can bring a lot of empathy and compassion into these type of situations. And in that regard, forgiveness can become a little bit easier, knowing that it's really tough being a human. And there's not a single one of us out here that hasn't hurt somebody in some way, shape, or form. We all have, whether we meant to or not, we still have. It's so true in relationships, right? Like, for example, say one person is really into it and the other person in a relationship is not really into it, but they like you well enough. They just don't return that heightened sense of love that you feel for them. And they don't want to hurt you, but they also aren't going to sacrifice their own wants and needs to make you happy, because that's not fair. And would you ask them to? No, hopefully not. So a lot of times we're hurt in relationships like this, where our love is not returned and we feel like that person did something to hurt us. They didn't do it on purpose. They really didn't want to hurt you. You didn't really want to hurt them. They're just looking out for their own self. And that's okay, because in this way, to love yourself is very important. And forgiving yourself also means loving yourself. It's like a side effect. When you love yourself to this extent where you know that all you are is love, then forgiveness is an easy side effect because you don't want to harbor any of these intense emotions that can be holding you back, stressing you out, causing disease in your system. I found a quote by T.D. Jakes. It says, "I think the first step is to understand that forgiveness does not exonerate the perpetrator. Forgiveness liberates the victim. It is a gift you give yourself." That is so true. It is the best gift you can give yourself because, again, holding on to any of these feelings toward the person or the situation that harmed you only hurts you. So it is the biggest gift you can give yourself to release yourself of this heavy weight that does not serve you and does not need to be carried around any longer. In the law of one, they say, in forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of karma. So if we don't want to stay on this wheel and continue through this cycle over and over and over again, it's really important that we learn to forgive. In Dolores Cannon's work, she also found this in all of her sessions, that it was very important to forgive. She said in her book, The Convoluted Universe, Book 4, she said, "I have found that you can get rid of any leftover karma by forgiving others for their misdeeds against you. But even more importantly, you must forgive yourself. It always takes two. There are always two sides to every story. Neither one of these things is easy to do, but if you want to stop the wheel of karma, they must be done." So I think that is a really excellent thing to do to learn how to do in this lifetime. So we don't need to come back and do it all over again with the same people in different circumstances. Yeah. So that's good motivation. I want to get this all done now so I don't have to do this again. Right. And this reminds me of the Egyptian story of after someone has died and their soul goes on towards the afterlife and how their heart is weighed, the weight of their heart is weighed against the weight of a feather. And if their heart is as light as a feather, then they can ascend or move on. But if their heart is heavy, then they have to come back and do it all over again. So I think that the Egyptians were telling us a little bit about how karma worked there, about lightening our hearts and not carrying that load so that we can ascend. We don't need to carry all of this bitterness around with us. We can replace that with love. Let's listen to, I found a little clip of Joe Dispenza. I've been on a Joe Dispenza kick lately, but I just really like the way he explains forgiveness. Take a listen.
Speak about the neurophysiology of forgiveness?
Sure. Think about frozen circuits. Frozen circuits are hardwired circuits. The more profound the insult to the person that is connected to a strong emotion, the more the brain freezes circuitry. The more we think about the experience, the more we fire and wire the circuits in our brain. Yes or no?
Yes.
And the more we remember the event, the more we produce the emotions that are associated with it, and we're conditioning the brain and body further into the past. Yes or no?
Yes.
And you keep doing it enough times, it's no longer conscious that you're holding a grudge. It's no longer conscious that you're stuck. It's now you're seeing everybody through the lens of that experience, and everybody's a betrayer. Everybody can't be trusted. Everybody is that same person. You're overlaying the memory of your experience into reality. You're not seeing it the way it is. You're seeing that person wearing the mask of the last person. That's the lens that we're perceiving reality. Are you with me still? And so then anything in your life that becomes remotely close to it based on your limited perception triggers the emotion in the network, and you're back in your past and you're acting like you were when it happened. Are you with me still? And so then the person says, I'm not that person. And you say, oh, no, I know. I just had this event in my past and I'm sorry. And then it's excusable, but then here it happens again. And there's nothing wrong with this. We all do it. It's just, how do we overcome it? So then you're sitting and doing the work, and you're moving energy up those centers. You're releasing the life force into your brain. You are blessing those centers and taking a scoop and moving it all the way up and releasing it all the way up into the field. You're opening the channel. You're unfolding as nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, and the identity and the personality is gone. Energy is going to move. It's got to. It's going to follow the path. You're opening your heart. Once it gets to your heart, it's going to make its way all the way up. And when you feel love and compassion, when you feel true kindness and care, it's hard to hold a grudge. Are you with me still?
Yes.
So then from a quantum physics point of view, you have that person always in the back of your mind, right? You have the event and the memory rolling around back there because the very thing that you don't want to have happen, you're already preparing for emotionally. Are you with me still? So then from a quantum perspective, you are actually, as a creator of reality, holding yourself hostage because of that person. And you are holding them hostage because of that experience. And you have an energetic bond that's connecting you to them. And you're sharing the same energy. And so then you're using each other to reaffirm whatever that energetic agreement is. Are you with me still? So then, when you forgive someone, it's because there's been a strong change in your emotional state. Because the emotion is what's keeping you energetically bound to them or to more than one person. And so then once you start lowering the volume to that emotion and the body starts liberating energy, and you're calling your energy back to you, because the lower the volume of the emotion, the less you're going to pay attention to that person, there comes a moment where there's a snap, there's a release, the energy is broken. And once it's broken now, all of a sudden you free yourself and you free them. And this has happened to me in my life. The people show up 10 years later, completely changed and so humble and so asking for forgiveness just because they had transformed, and I let them go. So then forgiveness from a quantum perspective and a neurophysiological perspective is just taking your attention off them. That's all it is. And when you start getting happy with yourself, and you start feeling those elevated emotions because you're striving for that, you wouldn't trade this for the grudge you were holding because this feels too good. Are you with me still? Now, once that heart opens up and you start having energy in the center and it's releasing 1,300 to 1,400 different chemicals that begin to restore and regenerate the body, the body start getting a lift of energy. Once it makes its here, now you're going to see that track sending in energy to the brain. The heart acts as an amplifier to boost the brain. Are you with me still? Yep. So then once the energy starts making its way into the brain, once the heart starts to open, we've measured this with our students. They have oxytocin levels rise. Once you start feeling oxytocin, when you feel more love, then you feel the grudge. So then you think, why would I want to give this up for that person? That's called forgiveness. You don't have to try to do it. It just is a side effect of your personal transformation. And oxytocin then, when it's released, rushes right into the amygdala, the survival center of the brain, and the research is outstanding. And the first thing it does is it fits in the same receptor sites as fear, and it lowers the volume to fear and anxiety. It shuts the lights out for aggression and anger and hostility. And it cools the circuits off for suffering and pain. And the only thing you can feel is a love for life. And that's when you're free. Now, the practice of forgiveness, matter to matter, you can do it, but it takes a long time and a lot of work. And then you forgive, and then you're like, I don't want to forgive him. Halfway forgive him. And just never really authentic forgiveness. Do you understand? And there was a woman that came to our work, and she was raped by 4 men when she was a teenager, and it was abusive. And she had severe night terrors, severe anxiety and panic attacks. She had cyclic mood problems. She had been to every single doctor, every single healer, every single alternative practitioner. Nothing changed it. She came to our event in Tacoma, Washington. And she hit that point where she became everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, every time, every place. She became the oneness. And that frequency had a message for her, and it said, and she was in incredible bliss when this happened. I sent 4 angels disguised as rapists for this moment. And that was the end of her terrors. That was the end of her night. She couldn't have a relationship. She could not live with anybody. She was isolated. One moment, the divine stepped in and gave her the signal. That was carrying a very specific message. And she got the download, not just the thought. She got the energy move right through her body, and she saw the whole thing. And that moment is what she was waiting for. That's what the soul was waiting for. Now she's healed, she's healthy, she's happy, and she's on with a new life. She's born again. My mother would love this. She's born again in the same life. Reborn in the same life. Didn't pass through a birth canal for it. She just was born again in the same life. She got a new lease in one instant. That energy was carrying a message, and it made its way all the way into the body. And the bliss and the joy and the gratitude and the love that she felt, and the message that was carried made total sense to her. She's free. One instant. To me, that's true forgiveness. That's the divine having its way with you.
So he explained at the beginning there why forgiveness is so hard, because our circuitry has been frozen and our brain has been, and our body has been conditioned to stay in this past behavior or this past process of thinking about the situation in this way. So when we can start to look at the situation with a new lens and with a new perception, and we can bring some love and compassion into it and feel that feeling of love and compassion, it's a lot harder to hold the grudge then, because the feeling of love feels a whole lot better than the feeling of the grudge. And when we can let that go, that is extremely freeing for them and for us. And we're not anymore holding ourselves or them hostage energetically, right? Our heart acts as an amplifier. We know this. Our heart is this wave. This is this wave of energy that we emanate. What do we want to be emanating? That's really important. What is our energetic emanation? We get to choose that. We get to decide if we're putting out love into the world or if we're putting out grief or hatred or anything of the sort. We get to choose. And of course, this takes practice, lots and lots and lots of practice, but it's important that we keep doing this practice and practice it in little ways, say it's just driving around in traffic and somebody cuts you off, immediately forgive them, because how much does that affect your day, right? So let it go. I forgive you. Practice in those little moments, and then it becomes a little bit easier as the bigger moments come. So true forgiveness, I love this definition that he had, is the divine having its way with you. Absolutely. That is beautiful. So I think it's really important that we can learn to forgive because it is extremely important to our mental and physical well-being. And when we can reduce our stress levels and allow love to be our primary emotion, wow, game changer. So I think another really helpful tool is developing empathy for others and trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. You know, we all have things going on in our lives. And if we can try to understand where the other person is coming from, then forgiveness comes a little easier also. Mark Twain said, "Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it." Now that is the takeaway. So what have we learned? What beauty has come out of this situation? Where have we found our power? Where have we found ways to love more, to be more empathetic, and to be more compassionate? Through forgiveness, we find all of these things. So I think that's all the imaginary time I have for today, everybody. I'm going to leave you with a song by Trevor Hall called Forgive. Until next time, love you all. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear Brandon constantly say, it is a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration, and if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place we know of to do it. Period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Sun coming up on the earth, open up strong and we learn. Never done, never do we waver. Who is the one that we seek? Who is the one within we? I don't fear the answer. But I know hope it has wings. I can see it rest with the king. Let it shine unbounded. Out of the mouth comes the water. Out of the earth came a daughter. All I hear is to forgive. Of Creator, I call out my Deva. Lead us into patience. They drew the myths on the ceiling. Let it rain down for a healing. I know this is ancient. Well, I love you and I mean it. Hey, little child, can you feel it? Let it come full circle. I'm giving up on separation. Now it's time that we face it. All I hear is to forgive.
everything that has ever happened. Life is everything we can imagine, laid out in patterns of pain and passion. You cannot control it, so keep your compassion. There are no accidents, and there are no factions. There is no us and them, nothing to borrow or lend, no enemy or friend, and only forgiveness can make that happen. The only battle worth the fight, from the Rwandan genocide to the Seven Sisters, forgiving Orion for how he chases them across the skies every night. Forgiveness is forgiving, so give yourself this gift from time to time. And let all of your mistakes come all of your greatest gifts in disguise.